Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me on this Sunday morning. I see some of you, my chat is working today where it wasn't last time, so I can actually see uh, messages. You guys are signing in. If you haven't yet, drop a note where you're signing in from. And I'm in Burlington, Vermont today, and it's cold. All right, so I had a few different topics for today to talk about. Um, and these were requests. Um, one was anxiety, and certainly that's a big topic in today's world. Lots of people suffer from anxiety. And honestly, nothing gets in the way really more than you connecting to truth with a capital T, and your own truth of your own body. Um, Really more than fear or anxiety. It puts a double beat in your field, and it makes everything blurry. You can't really see clearly when you're running energy like that, right? It creates all this distortion in the lens through which you view life. It makes it very hard. We did a study, some of you may be hip to this, where we had a clinical trial, and it's actually under peer review currently, where we had 15 volunteers all receive 3 distance biofield tuning sessions. They all had clinical anxiety in the outset, and at the end, they didn't. So just 3 biofield tuning sessions at a distance had all of these people go from clinical anxiety to not. And I thought it was really interesting. We did a quantitative paper where we have all these graphs, and every graph, like, it goes down. Like, all the markers for anxiety in every graph go whoop. It's very impressive, actually. And but we also wrote a qualitative paper. And in the qualitative paper, we talk about what people said about their experience. And they said really interesting things like, since my anxiety is less, I now know when I'm thirsty. I know when I'm hungry. I know what my body needs, right? These are very simple things, to just know what your organism requires in order to be healthy. And I think that the way that we get closest to that state of like transcendent bliss, right? Bliss is a body experience, right? I know a lot of times people like want to separate spirituality and physiology, but you can't experience an expanded spirit in a body that's contracted, in a body that's in pain, in a body that's suffering in some way. The body has to be relaxed, it has to be healthy, it has to be in order for us to I think as humans we want to have all the experiences we can. I know I do, right? And so I want to experience my own spirit as much as I can within my physical body. So so anxiety definitely gets in the way, right? And that's all topic, done all kinds of stuff on anxiety. But the I think that the other topic that people asked me to talk about was, how do you know what those nudges are? Like, how do you connect with your own knowing about what the best path is, right? What the best choice is? Like, what are the signs and signals? And how do you discern the signal from the noise? And somebody said, like, how do you know it's not the other voices in your head or the parasites talking or, father culture telling you what to do in his Saturnian way? How do you really know what the juicy, good, real stuff is? And so I thought I'd speak to that and also do a tuning to help us just to tune into that subtlety. And I'm going to share some of the ways that I connect to that knowing. So first off, what's on my mind is very often when you are stuck in a place of indecision and you don't know, and you're kind of in your head going back and forth and back and forth. Okay, that's a complete and utter waste of time, waste of mental energy, and doesn't solve the problem. Like, if you don't know, you don't know. And it means you're either missing information that the choice that you're trying to make between the two, it might be both, it might be neither, it might be something else altogether. Okay. Now, in our culture, we have this thing where we talk about, do you go with your brain and your head and what you think, or do you go with your heart and what you feel? You get stuck in this duality between brain and heart, right? So, anytime you're ever stuck in a duality, what you need to do is triangulate. You need to triangulate, okay? So that third perspective is what resolves the uncertainty of duality. Whatever triangulation looks like. And so when you triangulate heart and head and you put gut in there, like your gut knows, right? So much intelligence in your gut. So but if you have poor digestion, if you have a whole bunch of emotional pain in here, guilt and shame and remorse and regret and powerlessness and victimhood, like, you don't even want to go there, right? And so a lot of us just breathe shallowly, and then because we can't go down here, or maybe your belly's fat and doughy and you hate it. I went through that for years, until I started using the sonic slider on. I solved that problem. So you can't access that, right? So this is another part of why it's so important to get healthy. Like, eat the right foods, like do the right things for yourself, like figure out what's going on down here and sort that out so that you can connect to that, so that you can hear it. So I just want to give you an example. Recently, I was invited to be a speaker at the event Anarchapulco in Acapulco. And it's kind of an anarchist cryptocurrency kind of thing. And, I don't know. And so when I got invited, I was like, "Well, I don't know if that's the best for my brand." Hang out with those people. And they're freedom lovers, and I'm a freedom lover. And even though my head was like, "Whoa, I don't know about this," my gut, my body, my body was like, "Yes." Like, that's a yes, right? There's our bodies know more than we do. And a lot of our guidance, right? This idea of nature guiding us guides our human animals. It's sort of a feeling. But I also have gotten information that's been very wordy and intellectual. I've talked before about how my hair is unruly today. About how I received what I call my prime directive from source. It came in very clearly one day, and it was, I think it was back in 2006, 2005. I think it was 2005. And at the time, I was popping kettle corn. I actually came up with the first organic kettle corn to market in 2004. Up to that point, you couldn't buy kettle corn in stores. Right now, it's huge and it's everywhere. But back in 2004, it was nowhere. And I'd never even eaten kettle corn before, but I just saw it as a market opportunity, got a kettle, learned how to pop it, and created a magical recipe, a few, and was delivering it to stores. It was flying off the shelves. And I was like, this is it, man. I've got a proven product. It's a great profit margin. I'm going to blow this up. I'm going to sell it to Frito-Lay, and I'm going to retire. Like, that was my plan. But it was around that time that I was in my hobby of Biofield tuning, which I think I called sound balancing back then, that I discovered the Biofield, and I started working in the Biofield, and by accident. And I started getting really dramatic outcomes. Really dramatic outcomes, like the kind of outcomes when you're in pain, when you're in distress, when you're upset, and you go see a provider, you want to feel a state change, and that was what was happening. But at the time, like, I did not want to be the tuning fork lady, right? I've said this before. I'm like, back in 2006, it was a different scene. Like, people didn't know about sound healing so much back then. It's really changed a lot since then. And then one day, I just got this very clear message, and it all came in kind of like certified mail. And it said, the world needs harmony more than it needs another snack food. You need to go to college, get degrees, learn and teach about sound, advance the science of the biofield, get in medical textbooks, awaken an army, and cover the globe with biofield tuning. And it was all just as clear as can be. It was like certified mail. Has anybody else ever gotten a download like that, right? Where it just comes in so clear and you're like, okay, right? And I didn't like the idea. I was like, I don't want to be that person. Don't make me do this. How embarrassing. Right? So sometimes we get guidance that we don't even necessarily agree with or that we don't want to do, right? I mean, sometimes what comes in isn't comfortable, isn't desirable. And we might protest it, That's ego. That's ego. I'm really trying to figure out like what is ego, and I think ego is the part of us that resists what is best for us, for whatever reason, out of defenses. Sometimes things just drop in as little post-it notes, little things that just say, "Do this" or "Go there." I don't have a lot of noise in my head to try to tease it out from. So I don't know how good I am at giving advice regarding that. There's a plow going by outside. I don't know if you can hear it. And part of the way that I don't have noise in my head has really come from being a biofield tuning practitioner. So if you have noise in your head and you want to get rid of it, one way is to become a biofield tuning practitioner. Because when you work with tuning forks with clients, you go into an alpha brainwave state and you go into a place where you're listening deeply. You're listening deeply, really with like every fiber of your being, right? That's that presence that I was talking about before. Where you take whatever is you. People often ask, well, how come the signal of the tuner doesn't get in the way, right? Because your fields are together of you reading the signal of the person you're working on. And what I always say is, you can be having a conversation with someone and them be talking and you kind of going through the motions and nodding and whatever, but you're actually have voices in your own head. Or you can be really quiet inside and be listening very deeply. You can usually tell the difference if somebody's listening deeply versus kind of distracted inside their own mind. So that's the way as a tuner that you listen to somebody else's field. You turn yourself off. We call it hollow bone. Or just take everything that's Eileen and put that aside. And then you just kind of show up in this place of neutrality and witnessing. And so the more that you do that, right? And that's the aim of meditation, I think. But sometimes for a lot of people, just sitting and trying to be quiet doesn't work. All those emotions you haven't digested start spinning as thoughts around you. I think even just sitting down and listening to tuning forks, whether or bowls or whatever, even if you're not working on someone, or music, can help bring you to that stillness, right? So I want to encourage you to cultivate an alpha brainwave state. And as you become more quiet inside, you feel these nudges, you get these downloads, you just have this sort of clarity of like, oh, there's a post-it note and says, do this. Sorts came in very clearly and said to me, yeah, I want you to start showing up regularly on Sundays. And I was like, Sundays? No. Regularly? No, I don't like that. Right? So that's ego. That's ego. I don't like it. I don't want to. It's my Sunday. Blah, blah, blah. I don't like being regular. I don't like being dependable. I like being random and spontaneous. But the message was really clear. It was like, no, you can do this for a while. I was like, okay, right? So you don't always necessarily like it. But then I started doing this and I was like, oh, I actually like this. I like community. Hi, Libby. Hi, Dawn. Hi, Patricia. Like my friends are here, right? So it's an opportunity to gather with community, which I love. One of the things that I put on Facebook last week was I was trying to figure out, I was just watching a Pam Gregory. She's an astrologer, and she says, hi, everyone. Pam Gregory, astrologer here. I was like, okay, hi, everyone. Eileen McKusick, something or other here. I couldn't come up with what that was, right? I still don't know. But, I'm just me, you're just you. But, I know what I was going to say. From the beginning, when I started my restaurant when I was 20, I've been about community building. I love community. And I think part of why I love community is because I've always been sort of a fringe, weirdo. And so in order to not feel sort of fringy and weird, it's always been helpful to gather birds of a feather because then we feel better. And there was a writer who used to come into the Vanilla Bean, and a guy named George. Gosh, I can't remember George's last name. Brilliant guy. And I'd go and sit and chat with him, have a cup of coffee now and again. And I remember one day he looked at me from, he lowered his glasses and peered at me, and he said, "You're on the inside of the outsiders." I was like, "Oh, I like that. That's pretty cool." Right. So, if you've felt that way because you're sensitive, because you're, maybe too sensitive, I certainly have been called that. It's important. It's really important that we find community, that we don't feel alone. We bond together, and together we can do cool things. And I think not today, but as we kind of go forward and more of you start to show up with tuning forks, maybe we'll just do group tunes. Not just me working with you guys, but us as a group sending good vibes out into the world together. Good. All right. So I'm glad to see that you guys can relate. Hi, I'm Eileen, fringe weirdo. No, I think that it is true, but I don't really feel that way so much anymore because there's so many of us. Years ago when I didn't realize there were so many of us. There's so many of us, guys. There's so many of us doing this work, and I love that. There's so many people wanting to heal their ancestral lineage. I'm actually going to be doing a course with the Shift Network starting the end of February on doing ancestral healing, which is a big part of this. So maybe you can join me for that. I'll have more information on that soon, because it's not just our own noise that gets in the way, right? It's the noise of our ancestors, like the sins of our fathers, kind of in our own signal. And so a big part of our own healing is ancestral healing. Okay, so let's come back and I'm going to pick up the forks, and we're going to do a little tuning. We're going to listen to the stuff that might get in the way of us really receiving those messages loud and clear, right? You want to be connected, because that's where life gets easy, honestly, in a way, is when you're so connected to the voice of God, the truth of God, the healthiest path, the thing that supports you in the most way, right? The more connected we are, then there's more certainty in that. I just went through an experience between the solstice and the full moon in January that was emotionally really tough, like really tough. And it required me adapting to something that I didn't want to adapt to, that I didn't like, right? My ego came up all over the place. I don't like this. I don't want this. Triggers all over the place. And honestly, I thought that I was kind of past being triggered like that, but jaw test, as they say in Jamaica, jaw test and jaw bless. And even as I was going through my reactions, I was very tuned into God, who was saying, "Eileen, this is for the best. And you know it." I was like, "I know it, but I don't like it." And I had to kind of work through those emotions, my very human egoic response, right? I'm still human. I still have egoic responses. I don't want anyone to ever think that I'm above or, than anybody. I'm human. I'm just a curious human who likes to solve problems. But that doesn't mean that I don't continually have problems to solve or continually have emotional healing to do, right? I'll be doing emotional healing and expanding until the day I die. And I hope you will be too. There's no one and done, I know we've been programmed kind of like winning the lottery, or, you're going to find some program or teacher or some method that's going to make you whole, and you're going to be groovy for the rest of your life. Life's not like that. Life wants to throw you tests. Life wants to throw you blessings. Life is this. It does this. And to think you're just going to do this is nonsense. To think that you're just going to do that is dead, right? We have to be okay with the ups and downs. It's kind of more of a spiral, really, right? And we're going to keep having our lessons. We're going to keep having our tests. We're going to keep having our challenges. This past week, I went through dental misery that I had to figure out how to solve. So we all have these tests thrown at us. And you can be a victim and you can feel bad for yourself, or you can just be like, this is the game, this is the test. How do I figure it out? How do I solve the problem? How do I work through this? Right? It's all about like, how much on the game are you? How on the ball are you? Right? Stop sitting around being a victim and like, oh, this happened to me. And yes, of course it did. And it will continue to. How can it make you stronger? How can it make you better? This whole dental issue that I went through is really an opportunity to take my health to the next level. Right? Every crisis is an opportunity for growth, for leveling up, for getting closer to our potential. So don't reject them, don't say no. I mean, it's okay to say no. I say no a lot, but then I get over it, right? I get over that no. I work through those egoic tangles and come into peace with what is, acceptance, right? Yeah. New levels forever, always expanding. Waiting for in-person trainings with Biofield tuning. I think they're going to come this year. I think that we will have some this year. So, okay. So let's take a moment to just check in with our bodies, how we're feeling, what we're noticing. And just try to connect to the group. How many we got? 232 in this moment. Let's just kind of see ourselves in a circle. We're kind of seeing this sort of outdoor cathedral with big trees, big pines, maybe redwoods, and the sun coming through sort of dappley. And everybody in a big circle, like just lights, right? Everybody's spirit, soul, light body. And we're all here, gathered, right? Gathered in the light together and supporting each other, right? Because this is part of being a tuner or healer, is that you're here to serve. You're here to help. You're here to help other people get more in touch with their light, with their health. Because we care about each other. Because we care about each other. I care. That's why I do what I do. I care so much. I want to fix everybody. I have to tell you, it makes me so upset seeing that there's so many heart issues out there, myocarditis and this and that. Do you know that Biofield tuning can fix that? It can fix it. I worked with somebody just a couple days ago, AFib. Listened to her signal. I was like, you're not breathing. You're all in tension. And just 20 minutes of working on her heart at a distance, I was able to get her heart to relax, and I was able to get her breathing to open up, just like that. So if you're a tuner, or you want to be a tuner, please help me get the word out that we can help with all of these heart things that are going on, okay? I know, we want to help everyone heal, Lily. Well, we all work better together, right? There's strength in numbers, so. All right, so let's come back to our grove, and let's just be with each other in the light, and let's just listen and see what happens. Okay, so this this tone is really subdued. It feels kind of isolated and a little sad. So that's that kind of feeling of separation, isolation. It's winter here in the northern hemisphere, so we're kind of not enough light, short days. So there's a kind of like sort of feeling here. Maybe some of you can relate to that. All right, so lively up yourself. So that's starting to happen. There's a little bit more of a coming in. I don't quite know how to describe it. More life force, but it's kind of jazzy. It's got a little groove to it. Make sure you're breathing. So the way that we shake up patterns is by moving our bodies, by making sound. And you want to do that if it starts to come over you spontaneously, right? Don't fake it. Don't fake it till you make it with this. That's not a place to do that. You just want to be curious about when that movement wants to start in you, and then just follow it. Right? You don't have anybody watching you, so you can get as crazy as you want. All right, so what I'm kind of feeling is everybody's individual light kind of brightening. So there's some heavy stuff kind of around here that's starting to brighten. And now what I'm kind of seeing is our individual lights kind of forming one big light in the middle, which is kind of cool, like a collective light. Yeah, so let's just maybe imagine feeding that collective light that we're all creating together. It's almost got like an energy of its own, right? What's it called? Igor, I never remember what they're called. Um, maybe somebody knows and you can drop it in the chat. It's like a thing that isn't a thing, but you create it with your mind and then it becomes a thing. And especially groups creating these things in our mind and they become things, they take on energy. It's like egregory or something like that. Fear about connecting, fear about expanding, fear of doing it wrong, fear of being punished, fear of being seen, fear of your own power. You know, I want to talk about this for just one sec. Thank you, Columbia. So yes, I'm using the 144. You're not afraid of your power. You're afraid you're going to misuse your power. Because power is just energy. That's all it is, really. It's energy, right? And misuse of power is like being passive aggressive or being angry or the power going into the yang expression of like power over people. And so power, real power is just radiant warmth, presence, energy, strength, right? So you're not afraid of that. That's nothing to be afraid of. So if you're saying this story like, oh, I'm afraid of my own power. Well, so many people, like everybody says that. Okay. Duh. Like, let's get over that. I'm concerned that I might misuse your power. Well, I can pretty much guarantee you that if you're hanging out here and you're on this level of consciousness, you're not going to misuse your power. You're just not. Right. So that's a whole story that you can just throw out the window right now. Don't ever say that again. All right. You do something like, I use my power for good in the world, whatever you need to say. All right, super important. There you go. Yeah. Yeah. I'm hearing you say that. I'm not afraid of my power. Oh, yeah, let me put it that way. Like, I'm actually really comfortable with my power. I know that I'll use it for good. This is an interesting thing that's coming up, and that's like being angry at God. Okay. I get that. I've been angry at God a lot. I was just really angry at God a few weeks ago. I was like, it's okay to be angry at God, and it's okay to express that anger at God. God loves you anyway, right? It's a normal thing to be angry at God, but God knows what we need. God knows what we need. Life knows what we need. And it's okay for your ego to have moments of anger about it. Don't feel bad about that. Just let it run through you and it'll pass. It'll just pass. And then you'll be like, oh, you're right. It's going good. Okay, and now that's kind of energy is sort of turning into excitement, right? Around possibilities. Kind of like get excited. And there's that anxiety coming up, and that's a really deep level. That and we'll work on that next week. So next week we'll really get into settling down that anxiety vibe. Just kind of acknowledge it in passing here. Even if you don't feel consciously anxious, it's very often running. And I discovered that after my motorcycle accident in July, where I was like, I'm never anxious. And I never feel anxious really. But I discovered that my compulsive to like doing was actually anxiety driven. And it took me being so still and having to recover from a pretty bad accident to connect into that anxiety, right? So if you're a workaholic or you're a compulsive doer, even if you don't feel anxious, it's likely that that's driving your actions. And anxiety driven actions often just go around in circles. Not always. I mean, sometimes they can turn into amazing things, but we're better off learning how to move from our calm center, from our truth, and from that energy, right, of nature that sort of I talked about, I think in my first one, about how the feminine aspect of God is more feeling oriented, right? That feeling when I got a yes to Anarchapulco, that wasn't a mental, it was a feeling sense. Um, so that's what we want to be tuned into. It's that natural flow. Anxious so long it's normal. Yeah. I think most people feel that way, but it's keeping us all out of power and it's keeping us all out of truth. And it's keeping God's will or heaven on earth from manifesting because we're all like acting anxiety instead of like truth. It's an important problem to solve in yourself and to help others to do the same. Make sure you're breathing. There we go. All right, so this light is really kind of building, and it's almost got like a nice kind of radiant pulse to it, right? So as we collectively feed the light, we also are collectively fed by that light, right? So it's this pulsing in, giving, and pulsing out, receiving. So don't just be a giver. Don't just be putting in, right? So many people. One of the things that I've asked in classes is, how many of you give and receive in equal measure? Do you know how many people raise their hand? Not many. Do you know that the ones who do raise their hands are often men? But women? No. Right? That's an imbalance. It's like if you spend more than you make, you're going to end up in debt. Is that responsible? No. If you give more than you receive, you end up in a different kind of debt, but it's a debt nonetheless. Right? They've even discovered, and I don't know if this is true, but apparently the sun pulses, right? So it like gives off negative charge and or no, it gives off positive charge and then pulls in negative charge. Right? So the breath, the heartbeat, everything is breathing in, breathing out, receiving, giving. This happens in equal measure. Our heartbeat happens in equal measure. Our breath happens in equal measure. We can't be a giver all the time and not be willing to receive. Okay. So likewise, we can't be super needy and be like needy all the time and want, and not be engaged in a give. Okay? This is how life works. Reciprocity. So tuning into that light in the center, feeling that pulse of giving and receiving, feeling yourself as part of that. This is life itself. Boom, boom. Life itself. Giving and receiving. Yeah, wax on, wax off. Yin yang. Yeah. I'm not shaking out any kind of like, oh no, we're really receiving nonsense. I gotta receive so I can give more. The more I receive, the more I give. The more I receive, the more I give. Gotta receive to give more. Can't give from an empty cup. Don't feel guilty. Let it in. My feet start going. Definitely stuff moving here. It's easy for me to receive. Yeah. Yes. It's easy for me to receive guidance. It's easy for me to receive knowing. It's easy for me to receive my intuition. Right? It's easy. Part of why you struggle to receive messages is because you struggle to receive. You don't allow yourself to receive. You don't think you're good enough to receive, right? Maybe make some noise. Good. All right, let's try a different fork. This is a 174. Oh, I don't like that at all right now. Let's try 417. I don't use that very often. It sounds a little sour. Okay, this is going right into, interestingly enough, the alta major. My friend Tiffany Barsotti introduced me to the idea that we have a minor chakra right at our atlas, where our spine joins our skull. In fact, that's what I call my mail slot. Even before I understood that the alta major existed, I always felt like these like came in like post-it notes in the back of my head. And another name for the alta major is the mouth of God or the word of God, right? So if you're all gummed up in there, or your atlas is out of whack, you're not going to necessarily get a clarity of signal. So we're going to do a few strikes in that alta major zone with the intention of just de-gumming it. It feels sort of gummy. But right? We want to polish this. This is really want to shake out the gunk out of this. So it's like, wah, receiver. It's like the top of our antenna or something. It needs to be clean. Just really see the sound going in there, the light going in there. You know, use your imagination. Like, how gunky is it? Is it covered with tar? It's like what's gumming up the clear signal of the alta major, the voice of God, in your own back of your head. Yeah, there we go. Wish I didn't make weird noises and have to jump around, honestly. But it's just what happens. And it works. Like, it really does clear stuff out. And that's what sound healing is all about, is making sound, making movement. In the sonic anatomy, the back of the head sound, the sing the body electric work that I do with the Brothers Corn, which is my favorite thing in the whole world. The back of the sound head voice is eh. So you're gonna do that with me. So you make the sound eh, and you direct it, like really direct it right there. Let's do it together. Play around with that. And it goes in like a little sonic cleaner. You're going to go to the dentist and use a sonic cleaner on you. So you do it with your own voice from the inside. And yeah, you can put a weighted fork on your atlas. If you got a sonic slider, the circuit boot, you put it there and make some sound. Clean it out. Okay, that I feel a lot of energy moving. So what we're doing just loosened up stuff. Like I feel an opening. I feel a heart opening, interestingly enough. So let's come back to our circle and that inner light, which has grown. And actually now, so it went from being like, around us, and now it's like, whoop, peaked up like above the trees. So we're kind of creating like a column or a beacon of light. It's sort of like mushroom clouding around. So let's just all take a moment. If you've got forks, I'm using a 528 now. Let's just kind of feed our little pillar of light here and be fed by it. And also amplify that, send that out into the world. Rain down drops of light wherever they're needed. Blessings, comfort, connection, miracles. Good. You feel that? I think that's that state of grace when we all get into that place of light and kind of quiet. I love this. And my favorite states of being is to be with a group in that place of just light, soft light, and connection. Okay, everybody take a big breath. Just notice how you're feeling. Maybe drop a note in the chat. See what you notice. So I hope with whatever you're doing as you go out into the world today, that you remember how important it is to give and receive in equal measure, that the more you receive, the more you can give. Don't let yourself get empty. Play around maybe with your own alta major, with weighted forks or just visualization. And then do whatever you have to do to heal your gut. Whatever that looks like, be determined to heal your gut, heal your belly, so that you're more deeply connected with your knowing. Because remember, it comes in different ways, in our body knowing, in our messages that come with words. And so you can definitely open up those pathways more and more and more and get more and more clear. And also notice when your ego is arguing with God, know that that's okay. You'll get through it. Whole, balanced, calm, and peaceful. Feeling the communal light. I shoot rainbows through my alta major. Good place to keep clear. Sharing dewdrops of radiance with you all. Yeah, I'm so glad. All right, everybody. Well, that is our sermon for today. Oh, I'm not using the sermon. It's our sound day. I don't know. It's so funny. I wanted to be consistent in showing up, but I've been inconsistent about what I've been calling it. I'm finding a way to get my inconsistency in there somehow. But I really appreciate you taking the time to come and be with me. And I will look forward to seeing you here next week. And next week we'll go deep into the anxiety topic and see if we can really root that out and come into a place of maybe more consistent calmness. All right. I love you all. Have a great day. See you next time.